Welcome back to our YouTube channel Gossip Wire.
Mace taught me how to rap, and Cam always made sure I was on every single album he had. There would be no Jim Jones if it wasn't for them guys.
You got to respect people who turned the lights on for you.
Shout out to Pusha T. You're not in my top 50. You might be in Charlemagne's top 50 and things like that, but you haven't done that much for me in my life. Can you name 5 Pusha T records? No.
It's good to hear you give Mace his flowers.
I ain't giving no flowers. Fuck that nigga. I love to hate because I'm a hater myself.
Okay.
You know what I mean? I'm a bona fide hater.
You think you've seen rap beef before? Think again, this one's personal, public, and absolutely brutal. What Pusha T just did to Jim Jones wasn't just lyrical, it was surgical. And trust me, you don't want to miss what happens next. Encourage him to listen to the best rappers of all time, aside from talking about Daddy, who probably didn't, because if he did, Jim Jones wouldn't exist. Wasn't for those individuals. It's very encouraging to hear that you offer Mason flowers. I'm not sending any flowers. I'm a hater, so I adore the hate. Right now, this is the precise Jim Jones began to spiral once more. It wasn't random, either. It was a surgical procedure. When Pusha T's eyes met those of he wasn't just acting for that camera. Something dark, profound, and purposeful was being channeled by that man, in front of millions. It seemed as though he reached through the television and grabbed Jim's soul. There was no amusement in that icy gaze. It served as a warning, a statement, and an announcement that this was more than just rap. This conflict was personal. Fear of being repossessed. Too much. Your necklace is covered in enamel. I purchase _ you purchase those areas. I purchase collectibles, you buy watches. The bar pusher didn't spit. He rendered a verdict. The man gazed intently into Thelans as though he were looking directly into Jim Jones's fears and past his facade. Every lyric was like a notice of spiritual eviction. As push was, your time is over, buddy. I'm taking back the space you didn't deserve. And when the internet was taking a breather, he suddenly struck Jim with one of the rudest insults we've seen in a long time. Stated that Jim is fleeing spirit. It wasn't only a jab. It was on beat. Full-blown exorcism. The internet took off don't think pieces, comments, memes, you name it. Go ahead. The culture with a single line and a chokehold. But let's discuss that line in more detail. For a moment, it wasn't merely a smart wordplay. Its foundation was cold reality. Jim's house was essentially repossessed by an entire bank. Rap cap isn't that, those are actual receipts, as well as making that personal. No, that's bib. There was more than just music involved in this degree of gloom. It has to do with legacy. And guess who comes next? As if that wasn't enough salt in the womb. Mace. Yes. M-A-S-E. He watched Jim's public appearance as he pulled up to the ruckus, like he was sitting in the front row of a giant tub of popcorn. Disgrace plays out like a Netflix drama. It was evident in the sneer on his face. It was no longer just beef. Jim was the host of the full-fledged roasting session. Primary course. You pleaded with us. You're a fan. But a pause. Leave my at this point. The situation shifts from melancholy to outright delusions. Following all of that, too would think Jim would accept the loss gracefully after all that lyrical humiliation. Perhaps take a seat, take stock, and log off for a while. However, Jim leaps up. He makes a freestyle Instagram return as if he's still got bars in, like he's Rocky in the last round. If you thought it couldn't get worse for Jim, brace yourself. What fans did to him next might be more savage than the diss itself. Keep watching, because the second half of this video is where everything unravels. The room, and to whom is he aiming? Mace, as well as Pusher. For example, he is still in his prime, and it is 2006. However, let's maintain a perfect score. Jim has spent decades being educated by Mace and Cameron. This is nothing new. Additionally, Jim continues to arrive late talkless without completing any homework. Let's thoroughly dissect this situation. Malice and Push. Yes, the entire clips transformed NPR's small desk into a lyrical battleground after pulling up just bars. No tricks. Absolute accuracy. The rollout was what you would anticipate from the Kings, not the Rookies. All of this was connected to their album Let God Sort Them Out. However, the tune that had everyone riveted to their screens, the one that wasn't just Fireway's execution. I'm a breath of it. I'll end your heavin' just for the sake. Veterans appear to view it as bravery. I watch as your celebrity becomes irrelevant. Each of us in Aspace, the elephant is here. There's not grave markers in the desert. I'm sure you're aware of the disaster by now. Nick, you must be ill, Uncle replied. All you're talking about is simply becoming wealthy. My neck, which features whips and track chains. That was more than simply a song. Kendrick Lamar, Come to Play, and Pusha T. It was a lyrical assassination. Like a ghostwriter of nightmares, Kendrick pulled up. The small desk performance, it wasn't a showcase for the industry. It had the feel of a hit job. Additionally, if you watch the performance and that brilliant lyric breakdown simultaneously, you're already aware of the time. Push didn't bat an eye. Not a single smirk, blunder, or second take. He produced like a hitman delivering a death sentence in those bars, beat for beat, word for word, and the icy, intent, lethal expression in his eyes. Rap wasn't the only genre. Jim's name was at the top of the hit list. And just when you believe everything is metaphor, let a sneaky smile slip, as if to say, oh, yeah, this isn't just music, it's personal. T recordings are currently being pushed along the 5, his documents. Indeed. Give them names. Pressing nostalgia. You were a Push fan, I see. I had no idea that he possessed, say, 5 Pusher T LPs. No. His documents. No. Can you say no? Is it possible to rap to 5 Push? Is it okay if I rap 5? Okay. Is it possible to rap to 5? Hold on. Is it possible to rap if 5 Pusha T? Not the records on which he has appeared, but 5 Pushin' T records. If 5 Pushers can you rap them? T records, come on right now. 5 Push T might be rapped by you. Documents. Would you be able to wait? Could if they started performing. Are you currently pushing T records? Is rapping like the hook what you mean? Are you able to sing them? Because you don't rank in my top 50. Despite your inclusion in Charlemagne's top 50 and other lists, you haven't accomplished anything for me. For example, I never aspired to be like Pusher. I didn't. I've never experienced a Push moment. I never consider read 'em from where you dig. However, to be like you if you were that guy, in that rapper was influenced by pushing. For example, alright, great, Pusher recorded Mr. Me Too for that reason. Alright, great. You have a pretty powerful bite. You didn't even come close to making the top 50. You surpassed 950. And dude, the bars. They weren't punches, they were surgical tools, like scalpels. Each line had a purpose. Jim didn't believe a word that was directed at his tender regions. Aware of. Pusher wasn't a rapper. Heckled forth that verse. It wasn't simply difficult, it sounded like a summons from court disguised as poetry. However, we must not forget that Jim entered this conflict with his chest exposed. He was not coerced into joining this conflict. Behind the scenes, no strings were pulled, heavy lentered out of unadulterated devotion to Drake. As if a soldier were charging into, began a literary battle against a man who makes stillness sound menacing in enemy territory without body armor, and the one pub where the internet is still clinging to its pearls. We're all in the room, but here's the elephant, says Pusher quietly. You're out of your element hunting a feature. Oh, hadn't merely make fun of Jim. He revealed him, criticized him for circling Drake. Like a satellite, pleading for anything to stay relevant. A sign, a verse, a moment. Worst of all, he ought to be listed among the top 50 rappers of all time. What did he do? What has made him one of the best rappers of all time? Aside from time, no one has ever dressed like him. No one wants to say something like, no, I don't remember nothing. Let's not be mean, but we don't discuss rap with that person. Like. In this game, I don't know many people that were inclined to be like Pusha T, are pushing or playing in the club with no record since they young boy, don't play outside. NBA little boy prior to pressing TTHATs, crazy. That was NBA young boy previously. Jim. Who are you? No, Jim is merely attempting to enrage everyone here. Pushing is going on. Jim tried to enrage everyone, as you heard. Jim gave him a look. Take a look at him. I'm attempting that. That's my current mood. Push had a point, sort of. In a sense, Jim gave him the ammunition. Jim has been acting as Drake's guard dog ever since this feud resurfaced, anything to demonstrate. He kept barking at Pusha as if he were trying out to bait the internet, and OVO's 6th member took note. Everything began when Billboard ranked Pusha T at number 29 on their list of the top 50 best rappers of all time. Isn't that respectable? Not for Jim. He snapped. Couldn't manage it. He declared loudly on The Breakfast Club that Pusher had no business being on the list, not among the top 50. As in, really. As if we hadn't seen Pusher T enter entire camps and lyrically purge them. Jim wasn't finished though. He intensified his use of rap caviar and asserted Pusher hasn't made any significant contributions to the culture. That's crazy now. Half the game was shaken after this Pusher dropped Daytona, the same individual who, in a single diss track, destroyed Drake's public relations apparatus. Jim was incorrect in addition to being noisy. And that's what led to considerably more agonizing to witness next. I have your gas. You have to believe that you more than 4.0. I got into a brand new Rover. The bed is still being jumped by your brother. You can tell he stepped forward. You as well. I'm not sure what to perform. No, you want to, as you can see. Push avoids being caught in back and forth interviews. A podcast is unnecessary for him. He is not in need of a roundt conversation. He responded with a musical composition. It was straightforward, ruthless, and it spoke for itself. Jim attempted a freestyle clapback. This is the twist, though, that made everyone give him a serious side-eye. That freestyle wasn't novel. 2 years ago, it was recorded. Yes, you read correctly, back when clips premiered, the chains and whips beat while walking the Louis, and it was originally leaked runway for Vuitton. Jim somehow managed to get his hands on the beat and quickly released a freestyle as if he were preparing for an unheard-of war. Thus, when After Eclipse's Little Desk video went viral, Jim pulled an old freestyle out of the vault and added a humorous commentary, and posted it to Instagram as if it were I believed we had already discussed this. Already. He will require a larger desk. That one was too little petty, of course. Efficient, not so much. Because fans began to notice by this point. Jim wasn't punching anyone. He swung recycled jabs, in the hopes that would touch down and exert pressure. Jim was still shouting in the parking lot as he played chess 5 steps ahead. How are you, dude? Man, crazy. Okay, now go read the comments on Jim's Instagram post. His own admirers. He's being treated like the main course at a Sunday dinner. Man. Literally, one of the top responses said, "You got triggered and smoked so bad you re-uploaded a disc from last year." Jim is clearly feeling the pressure. His Instagram activity was erratic, with anxious laughter, strange captions, and sporadic selfies. The internet isn't stopping, and it's obvious that the man is going downhill. However, the worst of it wasn't even that. He was made fun of by another fan for boasting about the enamel on his chains while Push didn't even mention his name. And the line that truly made people scream out of jealousy: Beckham, fixated with it. Man, give it up, you're getting there. It became evident at that point that lyrical skill was not the only factor involved. In real time, Jim's credibility was being undermined. That was prior to Mace and Cam even filled in. Because it was curtains once they got involved. Imagine this, then. Mace seated on Cam's podcasts are what they are. Retaliation and Harlem spirit permeate the atmosphere, and when he speaks, it's as if decades of suppressed criticism suddenly surface. I was constantly with Cam, he admits bluntly. I didn't get along with Cam, didn't get along with anyone. I also witnessed Cam's adoration for Jimmy. He was really protective. How devoted, May then says it, though, after the money was received, once Jim changed things up and got a little shine. The romance soured. The devotion vanished. From there, things just became more chaotic. Mace and Cam had been anticipating this moment as if it were a pay-per-view rematch. Additionally, if you are familiar with Dipset's past, you are aware that Mace, Cam, and Jim have a long history together, offspring of the Cornback. However, as Mace was signing with and Cam was working hard, Jim was hiding, waiting, and observing as he was a bad boy and blew up overnight. Additionally, when Cam and Mace were already engrossed in the game, when Balin finally gave him an opportunity to shine. Jim aspired to be one of them. He wanted that Lloyd Banks moment. Back then, he wasn't a rapper, but rather Eamon lingering at the scene, attempting to regain his balance. He was even clowned by Mace. Stating that he looked awful. Dude. His waist was out of pocket and his neck was large. Instead of a microphone, he required a treadmill. It wasn't that was a drag disc. However, body shots weren't the end of it. Jim attempted to change the past. Said he constructed the dip. Reported to have been the inspiration of Cam's famous pink fur coat. Claimed to be the artistic dude. What? Cam wasn't having you from the Bronx, bro. He clapped back on the podcast. I didn't grow up. So stop telling people you're Harlem. I hardly knew you at all. Coming up with you all, though you did come around. You weren't a part of the core when your grandma resided in Harlem. You were a fan from the beginning. And when Cam dropped the mace, literally taught Jim how to rap, he claimed, referring to the nuclear bomb and the receipt, so they were prepared. Vintage footage shows Jim confessing to Macy was the first person who sat me down and taught me how to rap. The last blow was how to structure bars. For example, how are you going to change the story when the original author has video proof that you were the pupil? However, the best aspect of the entire situation, those sporadic interruptions throughout the podcast where Mace is only seen jiggling, almost choking on his popcorn, wheezing, but no words. And it wasn't a normal laugh. That was laughing certified by Harlem. Jim, he lost it when he viewed the clip. He gave a clap. "I'll slap that popcorn out," he said. Of the hand of May. That's not a bar. Bro. That's simply a royal of frustration. On-wall exhibition. Here is the plot now. Twist. Jim is not going to back down. Actually, rumor has it that he's getting dressed and bringing up the big guns. According to rumors, he's collaborating with Drake on his next Isman album. Additionally, it seems that he has bursts that are loaded and pointed straight at Cam, Mace and Pusher. Just one song rumored to be the one who could turn 50, full script. Individuals are muttering, it might be legacy denting or careering. However, given Jim's recent history, when we hear it, we'll believe it. Considering that it's beginning to seem as though Jim is attempting to wage war with a water pistol. Additionally, Push and Mason Cam included receipts, flamethrowers, and a lot of shade from Harlem. This isn't simply rap beef these days. This is a full-scale conflict over reputations. Thank you for observing. Remember to like, if you're here to share, please subscribe, The Mess. And believe me, we're simply beginning. And just when you think the war is over, boom, Jim Jones gears up for a comeback with Drake. Will this flip the game? Or will it bury him deeper? Don't forget to hit subscribe, because the next chapter is coming and you'll want to be here first when it drops.